Setting up an adjustable Zig-Rig is dead simple. First thing, you put this big metal ring onto your main line, and to that you attach a lead. We do 2 sizes of floats. To fish with the smaller of the floats, you really need about 3 ounces. The larger float, you need about 4.5 ounces to allow it to get down to the bottom and be able to pop it up. So yeah, metal rings on with lead attached. This is a 3 ounce pear lead. Then I thread my Zig Float down. The Zig Float is what allows you to pop your hook bait up through the water column and potentially back down again. There's an awful lot of buoyancy inside there. They come supplied with 2 bands, a black one and an orange one, that can just be easily fitted over the top. And this is to allow you at range to be able to see exactly when that float has hit the surface so you can find the perfect depth. I'm actually opting to not use one today because the water clarity here is very, very good and I don't want to spook the fish, so I've completely removed the band full stop. What I'm going to use is a monocular. You could use binoculars, and that's to look out there to exactly see when my float pops up onto the surface and my hook bait, but more of that in a second. Leads attached, floats attached. The next thing, tie on a uni swivel. I've just tied that on there with a tuck blood knot. That pulls inside the Zig Float body itself, like so. Really then it's just down to creating the hook link, and there's so many different permutations of bait you could use. I'm actually going to knock up one of my favourite right now, and that is simply using the critically balancing foam but incorporating maggots, and we all know that carp love maggots. To create said rig, the first thing you need is a very small match fishing hook. This is a size 16, and that gets tied onto my 10-pound Zig Float first. Again, simply with a tucked half blood knot. So round 6 times, back through that big loop by the eye, which creates this big loop here. Wet it, pull it all down tight. That is stage 1 of a maggot Zig rig. That's not to catch the carp, I hasten to add. The next thing to do is to take some critically balancing foam. I've actually got some here that's been soaked in Beetling. You can use any colour you desire really. You could use a combination of colours. I personally love black. The reason being, if you look up at the sky now, it's bright blue. If it was a gloomy day, it'd be grey or white. And I believe that the fish can see black the best, you know, when they're swimming underneath that Zig hook bait. It silhouettes off the sky. So I've mounted a piece of the critically balancing foam onto a needle, and I'm just going to thread that down the length of the hook link material. I can then pull into that my little tiny match hook. So the actual point in the barb go inside the foam itself. That's going to be my maggot hair stop. Next step, take a hook. Again, there's various different permutations you could use. I've kind of used the Fang X now for about the last 6 years. Haven't really got a need to change it. I do like the fact that it's got a straight point. I like straight points in all my pop-up fishing. I just think it gives you a few extra percentage of getting a hook hold. When that's sitting in the water like so, if I was using a beak point or an intern point, I do think that sometimes if their mouth comes down over it, because the point's tucking back in on itself, you may not get that potential hook hold, as opposed to with a straight point, there's more chance of the hook grabbing and taking hold. And I'm going to just simply whip that onto the shank of the hook with what I'd call a reverse KD rig. I'm sure you've heard of a KD rig before. Thread through, rip round a couple of times, maybe 3, pull the hair back and carry on whipping up the shank. Well, I'm going to do that the opposite way around. So I'm going to start whipping up the shank all the way until I'm in line with the point. With a size 8 hook, that's about 12 to 14 turns. Keep whipping all the way up there until I'm now dead in line with the point. I'm then going to take the hair and pull it back and whip round this side of the hair 3 times. This helps kick that piece of foam out at a really nice angle. I then go over this side once and the remaining side 2 more times before passing the end of the hook link back down through the eye. Like all knots and all rigs in carp fishing, it's very important that you give it a really good pull to make sure it's strong. The last thing I want is for it to let me down when I actually hook a fish. And there you have it. You can see that's kicked back at an angle now. It's allowing the hook point to sit at the perfect angle to take hold and catch. The only thing I've got to do now is add some Ziggler liner tube. If you look, the monofilament is actually forcing itself in because of the shape of the eye, and I just want to straighten that all out like so, so that hook sits perfectly. To do that, I just take a little piece of the Zig liner foam, about 5-6 mil in length, thread that down the hook link, all the way to the eye of the hook. Just wet the eye to make it a little bit easier to pass onto it, pop that on, and there you have it. That's the finished Zig-Rig. There's only one thing left to do, and that's add some maggots. To add the maggots onto the rig, I can take hold of the bend of the little match fishing hook, pull it down, and it now exposes the point. Simply take some maggots, 2's ample. If you're feeling greedy, you'll get away with 3, and pop those on there like so. I then pull that point back down into the foam, and there you have it. An awesome, highly attractive maggot Zig-Rig. You've got colour, you've got the flavour beetling, loads of sweet goodness, and now you've got wriggling maggots on top of it. Potentially very irresistible to any passing carp. So just to finish my adjustable Zig-Rig setup, I'm now going to attach the hook link. Adjustable Zig-Rigs and fixed Zig-Rigs are very, very effective, but they do have their downside. One of those things is they do like to tangle on the cast. Come on, when you're fishing with 2, 3, 4, 5 foot of mono, of course it's got the tendency to want to wrap around. And what I found when using the adjustable Zig-Rigs is the shorter you go, the better and the less prone you are for getting tangles. However, that does put the hook bait very close to the float, and I found the optimum distance to be about 2.5 to 3 foot, to almost completely eradicate any tangles and position that hook bait far enough away from the float that the fish hopefully won't spook on it. Just to finish the rig off, I'm going to add a small Hooklink sleeve slim, which can just be threaded down the hook link like so. I'm now ready to attach it to the swivel that's coming out of the float, again using a tucked half blood knot. I will say, guys, it's not critical that you use that knot. You could use a Palomar or a Grinner or whatever you're confident in, but just make sure you are confident in it and make sure you bed it down properly and it's nice and strong. Wet the knot, just tease it down with my nail like so. Give it a really good pull, just like the rig element. I do not want that knot letting me down. And finally, I can slide that Hooklink sleeve slim down over the top of the uni swivel, just to aid that little bit more with tangles. So there you have it, my adjustable Zig-Rig setup. I'm now going to make a cast, pop it all the way up to the surface, use a monocular so I can see exactly when that float and that hook bait hit the surface of the water, and then work it back downwards to position it exactly where I want to.